Hello everybody, my name is Jay, and you may have seen me from top 8s like Defend the North and ECT and Summer Jam and most recently NEC. If you guys didn't know me from that, you might have seen me from Soul Calibur 4 and Soul Calibur 5 as well, and I am here to talk about the basics of Amy by popular demand. It seemed like everybody wanted to see what the overall idea was with Amy. So the first thing that I should say is that anything that I'm about to talk about when it comes to Amy is subject to change due to the fact that Season 2 just recently came out. So in terms of Amy's, presence in the meta or overall understanding of Amy through the zeitgeist of Soul Calibur 6 could potentially change as time goes on. Same with certain tools that I will say probably in the future that are going to be useless but might become much more important later on, such as White Roses. But in terms of what I think now, Season 1 to Season 2, Amy went from, in my opinion, one of the best characters in the game in Season 1, arguably top 5, if not easily in the top 10, and she only got better. So she is almost definitely top 5 at this point, which I'm very happy about. But, let's talk about some of the very, very basic stuff that you should know when you're trying to learn how to play Amy. First things first, just the overall idea of what you want to do when you're playing Amy. Her power comes from her incredible speed, her overall safety and a lot of her attacks, her ability to parry any kind of time that the opponent's going to try to mash out of whatever you're going to do, and her ability to mix up and reverse mix up. She's the best turn stealer in the game, so an effective Amy player is generally going to be in their opponent's face, mashing a whole lot of different buttons, trying to coax the opponent into either clamping up, thinking that they have absolutely no way of pressing any kind of buttons, or they finally want to mash, and that's when the parries come in. When you're playing Amy, you want to make your opponent believe that there is no such thing as frame advantage and no such thing as frame disadvantage. You're always in control. The hardest thing, in my opinion, to deal with when it comes to Amy is, for one, when the game is first starting out, you are the weakest character in the game. You have no roses, so you barely have the amount of damage necessary in order to win a round. Secondly, although Amy has the ability to stay in control most of the round, it is kind of necessary for her to be in control for that amount of time. So you have to be thinking very, very quickly, and you have to force your opponent to think very quickly as well. So those are the kinds of ideas that you want to be thinking about when you're playing as Amy. It's really kind of, you're going all out all the time, always trying to get in, and once you're in, you want to stay in for as long as possible. So let's talk about some of the very, very staple moves that you want to be using in neutral when you're playing Amy. First thing is 6BB. 6BB is your I-10. You can also hit 6BB6 to go into AMS pressure if you really want to. The frames aren't exactly the best thing in the world, but that is something that you can do. It's always something that you want to be jabbing at your opponent with when you're in neutral, to constantly pepper them with small attacks. Now, I see a lot of Amy players rely on this a little bit too much, especially when it comes to block punishment. That's somebody who hasn't really recognized the frame situation that they have on their opponent, and I'll talk about block punishment in a little while later. But yeah, 6BB, definitely something to always make your opponent be thinking about. Second thing that we should talk about is 4A. 4A is arguably the best low in the game, and it becomes even better as time goes on. Now that Muscle Buster is nerfed, it's arguably, it's almost inarguably the best low in the game. A tech crouching, forward motion low that is unseeable that puts you at neutral on hit. Now, it is massively punishable on block. It is going to be minus 20, so anybody who's prepared for it is going to hit you about as hard as anybody could. But the fact that it's tech crouching, the fact that it's so incredibly fast, and the fact that it pushes out can really be very difficult for a lot of people to deal with. Not to mention, when they finally want to try and attack you afterwards, it can be pretty difficult. Well, why isn't it working? If they end up doing something like a 2A, then it can be, you starting to get into like parry situations where they don't really feel like they can attack back. Next you've got 3A. Now 3A is, on paper, arguably the best move in the entire game. An I-14 mid horizontal that tech crouches, -6 on block, +6 on hit, and plus 10 on counter hit. Now, plus 10 means that we're going to get a 6 BB just guaranteed. So this is something that, especially if you watch any of my matches, you're going to see me throwing this even more than 6 BB. I'm going to be throwing this out there so often, if only because it's so safe and it's so cheap to use. You're basically risking very, very little. It's even safe to most reversal edges as well. They're really not going to be able to handle this very well at all. Now, this isn't going to be safe to all reversal edges. It's going to be safe to all of them except for the incredibly fast ones, like Raphael and stuff. But the fact that it's -6, which means you can even continue to mash even on block, the fact that it's going to be tech crouching virtually a lot of the stuff that your opponent's going to want to do just incidentally, that's going to be pretty important. Now, let's talk about some of her vertical attacks. So 1B is you have to be pretty much right on top of the opponent, but this is going to be something that's going to allow you to get a rose. And it's an unseeable low that is, again, massively unsafe. That's one of the weaknesses that Amy has. But it is going to be a knockdown that can even potentially set up better Oki positions. You can get a red rose guaranteed with full crouch A plus B, which is the new Season 2 move, or you could go for a 6B plus K hold. Now, there is a potential white rose that you can get, 1B into 4P plus K hold, but the important thing to note about that is that it's not 100% guaranteed. Now, that being said, if you think that your opponent's going to tech, 4-4-AB into low parry can get you a white rose as well. So you can turn it into a 50-50. To be honest, I don't particularly like that because you're already putting yourself at a pretty high risk going for 1B, and against most players it's going to be difficult just to get into that position as well. So to potentially sack all of that just for a whiffed potential rose get, not really all that great in my opinion. So I tend to just go for the guaranteed rose. Now, the other way that you're going to get roses, and the other main vertical attack that you should know about, is 2-2B. 2-2B is something that you see a lot of Amy players throwing out in neutral all the time, and for good reason. You've got a tech crouching mid launcher that is -8 on block, so it's not even unsafe to use, and it's also incredibly fast, it's difficult to see, and it has incredibly large hitboxes. It'll catch a lot of people sidestepping if they're not specifically like spot dodging it. You can get a white or you can get a red off of this. So you can go 2-2B, 2-2B, 6B plus K6, into AMS whichever rose you want. So 6B plus K6, AMS A plus B for your red, 2-2B, 6B plus K6, KB for your white. Other things that you could do, AMS KA for potential ring out or potential wall combos, or if you already have one of your roses, why do I always do that? You can get AMS KK for a better Oki position. But yeah, that's generally the move that you're going to see a lot of people use that. So 3A, 2-2B, 4A, 6BB, you know, these are the kinds of moves that you're going to be seeing most in neutral. Another main way that you're going to get roses and another way to deal with pressure now that we have Season 2 is 3BA. 3BA used to be unsafe, now it is -8, and people have not gotten used to jumping the second hit, so you're talking about mid into low horizontal. So it's something that a lot of people, you can go 3B on block, into 3B, into 3B. You can get a red rose guaranteed here off of just regular 3B. You can get a red rose off of 4B, or you could go 6A, KB for your white. Now, 3B on its own is unsafe, so it's a pseudo-reverse mix-up that's not necessarily going to work against people who have better reactions or are experienced against Amy if anybody played against Amy in SE4. But still something to throw at your opponent. One of the other main things to note about Amy is that the more things that you can throw at your opponent, the more overwhelmed they're going to feel. And overwhelming your opponent with aggression and a lot of different tools that are relatively safe is the way to go. So those are the kinds of things that you're going to be dealing with when it comes to neutral tools with Amy. Now let's talk about roses. Now, I talked about before that you really don't have the damage when you have no roses in order to win a round, right? So off of like your main whiff punish, you're going to get 50 damage. which is really not all that great. And that's if you're going for red. If you're going for white, 40. So when characters are normally getting double that, you're potentially going to be losing some time, losing some rounds right at the beginning. But once you have red rows, it becomes a lot easier. So with red rows, let's talk about some of the things that become different. Red rows, now you get roses, or I mean you get new moves once you connect with 4 of a particular rose. You've seen how you're going to be getting roses, right? So what changes once you get red roses? One of the main things that you get with red rose is that your neutral tools become a lot stronger, and you have significantly more break attacks, which also allows for more damage. So where you're used to be getting AMS A plus B that was just like a red rose, so what was this, 50 damage? 50, 52. So now instead, the exact same combo puts you to 82. Pretty significant. Now, it's also important to note that all that's really changed is that my AMS A plus B has become this break attack, right? Now, if you were to hit with this raw, 78, it's almost the exact same amount of damage as the entire 2-2B combo, right? So if you watch my matches, what I tend to do is a lot of stuff that's kind of force blocking my opponent to like have to deal with this. It also hits grounded, so it's going to force my opponent to get up in a lot of positions as well. It's also neutral on block. One of the other things to note about a lot of Amy's stuff, other than the traditional A plus B, is that all of her new break attacks are going to put the opponent neutral on block. And to be honest, you don't really want anything that's going to give you frame advantage, because what you want is the opponent to get the idea that what they could do is potentially hit you, and then you're going to get a parry, which is much better than just sticking around and using frame advantage for something that's going to be like a small attack, right? Now, I didn't talk about this move before, but you've got 6-6-BA when you have no roses, but the problem is that 6-6-BA ends in a high, right? You can 6-6-B hold and do like a parry. You can like cancel into any kind of parry that you want, but the 6-6-B on block really isn't all that great, so it's kind of a useless move until you get red, and then you can do 6-6-BA and get a break attack, right? Now, on normal hit, that's what it looks like on counter hit. They're going to stand like that. So you're going to get a combo off of that. Now, the way you get a combo, one of the moves that I didn't really talk about when it comes to neutral and stuff is 4B. Notice how it throws out that little rose there. Now, this is a move that's going to hit grounded. I believe it's -10 when they just block the one hit, but if they block the rose, then you're at +4. If they get hit by the rose, you're at +10, which once again means that you get a free 6 BB. Now, the reason why this becomes very important once you get red is that you get this follow-up attack. Once again, this hits grounded. So, one of the main ways that people try to get away from characters that are really heavy on the mix-ups like this character is that they try to roll. And once you have them on the ground, they'll try to roll a lot to try and get out of your positioning, right? But 4BB kind of stops them in their tracks. It also combos off of 6-6-BA. It also combos off of 1B. So you see, in these positions where we were getting 20 to 40 damage, now we're getting 40 to 80. It practically doubles the amount of damage that you're getting. So there's a lot of different applications for 4BB. Not to mention, it also has incredible guard damage. I mean, incredible for Amy standards at the very least. Nope. So 24%. And this is only -10, which means that the majority of the characters can't even punish this. One of the other things that I like to do as well is off of my 2-2B combo when I have red roses. So, you notice how the standard combo will give you about 75, 80 damage, right? So what I tend to do is, so for 42 damage, I go for AMS KK. And what that does, it puts my opponent in a position where they absolutely have to guess on a mid or a low. If I want to go low, 1BB into 4BB. 1B into 4BB. And that gives me an additional 45 when I had sacked about 20 to 30, right? Or I can do 4BB, because that's going to catch rolling, right? So there's a variety of different options that you have in that situation. One of the other moves that you get, other than AMS A plus B and 6BA, your 4A goes from being one hit, that's -20 on block and neutral on hit, to being a double hitter. That's safer, -16, But look how far away I can be for for an unseeable low, and look how far it pushes me out. Virtually nobody can actually contest me with this. Now that Muscle Buster has been nerfed, I would argue that this is for sure the best low in the entire game. Your opponent has virtually no real recourse for dealing with this move. They just have to essentially back up, or potentially block it. A lot of people wonder like what they're supposed to do about this move, and the fact of the matter is, if you space it correctly, all they can do is just block and guess correctly. So you're putting your opponent in a position that's really, really tough to deal with. My other favorite thing to do, when you have no roses, you've got an AAA that is minus 12 on block, and is a very typical AA, right? So let's say you have red, a 41 damage, about 40 damage AAA when you have red roses. This also puts you at plus 8 on hit, and it's minus 6 on block. So you see me throwing this out a lot once I have red roses as well. And why not, right? It's very, very safe. It's an AA, so it's I-12. There's not a lot of people who can handle that kind of stuff. And so it just adds to your pressure, adds to your damage. And I'm frame advantage on like all that kind of stuff, right? It puts my opponent in a standing situation where I'm at frame advantage. So I can go for all kinds of stuff. I can go for a 4AA. I can go for a 3B. I can go for a 3A. I can go for all kinds of stuff. So when you have no roses, you have AMSB, right? Now I'm going to talk about AMS later, but seeing as how I'm already talking about red, AMSBB does that amount of damage, right? But when I have red roses, I get this follow-up, right? So again, it adds to a certain amount of damage. So that's the kind of stuff that you get when you have red roses. Now when you have white roses, your neutral tools don't get any stronger, but you have additional tools that you didn't have before, and your damage kind of skyrockets. Not to mention, once you get white roses, getting red roses becomes significantly easier. Now, I'm sure anybody who has heard me talk about White Rose at all has heard me say that I'm not a particular fan of White Rose, because again, the neutral tools aren't as good. The damage it takes to, like, the combos in order to get the White Rose, you don't get a White Rose guaranteed off of a low. And the ways to get White Rose makes the aiming player a lot slower. So I don't think it's all that great right now, but it has gotten a bit better in Season 2, which I'll talk about later. So let's talk about what you get when you have White Rose. The main thing that you get, anybody who's used to Street Fighter would know this as an uppercut. It is an I-14, double hit, massive hitbox kind of move that's going to give you a red rose, and is incredibly negative on block. So essentially it's a big old bet. So one thing that you can do is that people who are trying to like back up after you hit them with 4A, you can catch their movement with this. So it's something that your opponent has to be worried about all the time, right? Not to mention there's a handful of moves such as like Mitsu 1A that Amy is not able to punish unless she has white/purple with that 214B. So that's the main move that you get with that kind of thing. Also important to note is that when you have white roses and you do a reversal edge, you know how that like you can clash, and if you were the initiator of the reversal edge, then you get a lethal hit, right? But when I have white, I automatically, right off the first hit, will get a lethal hit. So that's something that's a little bit interesting. Other thing to note is that with every parry window, every hit level that I have for a parry, one of these moves is going to be a lethal hit the first time I hit with it for white. And I get massive damage off of that. The way that I get massive damage is mid parry B is just like this 2-hitter, which doesn't really put you on good frame advantage, but when I have white, I get a guaranteed red rose and it's 63 damage just on its own, right? So this is essentially your combo piece for when you have white roses. So if I have white roses, and I go low parry A, 6 is B plus K6, So that's AMS, BB, B, red. AMS, B, hold, BB, B, red rose. 66 damage off of a safe, gigantic range mid-horizontal. High parry B, you also get a lethal hit. Mid parry K, you also get a lethal hit. So I'll talk about those again when I go through the stances. You also get this additional follow-up to 4-4B. The reason why I'm kind of gliding over this is because I don't really think this is a very useful move. The only time that I've seen this used to great effect is in the Amy mirror match because of how close you are. This backswing blow just simply doesn't go very far. So I don't really think it's all that useful of a move. Maybe that'll change. Maybe that'll change in the future. So let's talk about what happens when you have red and white. You get purple. Now, really the only thing that changes is that you have the benefits of both red and white, but the main thing that you get is your purple CE. So when you have just red, when you have no roses, your red CE is 16 frames, and it does an okay amount of damage. About 70 damage for your red CE. So when I have just red, and I do the red CE, 86. So it's a little bit better, right? Now, when I have no roses and I do my white CE, which is a 12 frame CE, so it is useful for block punishment and stuff, it's really not going to do a lot of damage. Yeesh. About 50 damage. Now, if I have white roses, it's going to do about what you would expect from a white CE. $70 damage. Also important to note that when you have white roses, your red CE becomes 12 frames as well. Now, when you have purple, your CE is 12 frames, which means it's the fastest kind of CE in the game. Almost 100 damage. Important to note that the purple CE also heals your guard gauge, takes away your opponent's meter, and gives you meter. Gives you everything in the game. It's the best CE in the game. And I think a lot of people harp on that kind of thing. But it's important to note that even if Amy didn't have a purple CE, let's say she didn't have any meter whatsoever when she was in purple, she would still be the best character in the game. Notice this little flash whenever I'm doing the parries? One of the changes in Season 2 is that all my parries now become resist impacts, which means I can parry soul charge activations, like you've seen Maxi do from NEC. I can parry break attacks, I can parry unblockables, all kinds of stuff. Not to mention I get all the benefits from having red and white. I've got the uppercut, which now combos into 4BB. I have all those lethal hits I showed you before. I've got all kinds of stuff. I have the best I-16 punish in the game. In 66BA, 214B, 4BB. Yeah, best I-14 punish, 214B, 4BB. All kinds of stuff, right? So she's incredibly good. One of the other things that I should have noted before, one of the biggest strengths about having white, so when I don't have white roses, these parry windows that you see here start on frame 4 and last to frame 14. So it's a 10 frame window, which is pretty good. When I have white rose, it starts on frame 2, so which means it's as fast as a GI. When normally people get like a GI and get like a reverse mix-up and everything, you just get a guaranteed combo. But I get a guaranteed hit. And then it lasts until frame 22. So from 4 to 14 to 2 to 22. It's a 20 frame window, meaning the GI practically lasts even longer than the animation of the parry. It can be very disorienting for the opponents to deal with that. So let's talk about the parries now that we're at it. I've got 3 parries. I have one for every single hit level. Parry for lows, a parry for mids, and a parry for highs. High will also take care of grabs. Now you can see how quickly I can interchange between all 3 of these. This is one of the main reasons why I decided to play Amy, is because I think that these are her most powerful tool. It allows her to get through a lot of different pressure. You're defending yourself almost constantly when you're stance dancing, and they allowed for such quick transitions between them. It's pretty impressive. So let's talk about the stuff that you can do. The one that's most common is the mid parry. So mid parry, I have mid parry B. That doesn't really do a whole lot. I can hold down the B button after I hit it, and it puts me back into mid parry and do something else. I've got mid parry K. This is going to let you get a white rose, but it is minus 12 on block, so it is going to be punishable. Not that a lot of people punish it, but still it's minus 12, right? The reason why I like mid parry is mid parry AK. This gives you a guaranteed red rose, plus it's a knockdown, and it's relatively solid damage. When you have red rose, mid parry AK will combo into 4BB. Into relatively good Oki, right? So that's one of the things that's incredibly impressive about Amy. Not to mention, it's minus 2 on block. Which means even if they block it, they don't really have a recourse for challenging you, right? So for instance, against Ivy players, I can go mid parry AK into 3A for like a tech crouch kind of thing. There's not really a whole lot that she can do in her moveset that's going to be able to punish that sort of thing. And the fact that it's minus 2 means that it's reversal edge safe as well. Let's assuming that I can actually pull this off. Oh, I guess I had to make him hold it down. So that's going to be reversal edge safe. There's not really a whole lot of recourse that your opponent has, and even when they block it, it doesn't really matter. You can try to punish their movement with 4A, you can try to punish their mashing with 6B or a tech crouch with 3A, or you can just immediately go into mid parry again. And like I said, it gives you like a red rose as well. So let's talk about high parry. So high parry. Oh, one of the other things that I should mention about Amy's mid parry. So I talked about AK, right? A is essentially a stance. I can also go mid parry AA. This is minus on hit, but you can hold down the second A, and it goes into high parry. Which can then, like, so one of the things you'll see me do a lot, as you might have seen at against Linkors at NEC, is that I can go mid parry AA and kind of do like this little sidestep sort of thing that will punish people trying to do like a 2A if they block the mid parry AA, right? So one of the weaknesses to like mid parry AA and mid parry AK is that the opponent can GI in between the two hits. Now if you're dealing with somebody who GIs a lot, you got a pretty fast unblockable that is a vertical that people can step on reaction, but it's a little test of reactions, not to mention if they're trying to GI, it's going to beat them up, right? So that's essentially what you can get out of mid parry. So with high parry, you kind of have like pseudo mix-ups that are incredibly safe. You saw me doing like the high parry. The only real practical application that I have with high parry A is off of mid parry AA, right? For the most part, I use high parry to do high parry K, which is a low launcher that is once again minus 2, which means it is safe to reversal edge, to bait out GIs, to bait out reversal edges, and to catch people hard committing to a sidestep. Because again, even if I'm wrong, it's not going to matter, right? Because I'm minus 2. The combo is 6BB6 into AMSA, which once again puts your opponent plopped right in front of you for perfect Oki. You can even do like a 1B practically before they even hit the ground, right? One of the other things you can do is mid parry B. This will give you whichever rose that you like to use. AMSA plus B for your red. AMSKB for your white, right? High parry B is minus 4 on block. So again, not really something that you're going to have to deal with when it comes to punishing. Even when I make my opponent block something like this, I'll tend to mash even more so afterwards, because people are just trying to move and get out of your way, right? So high parry, not really much for mix-ups because the low is reactable. Now, one thing that I should mention is that this is a tech trap off of high parry K. So if they do not tech, AMS A plus B is guaranteed. Now, this is effectively getting hit by AMS A plus B raw, right? So if I have red roses,
Let's finish this.
almost an entire 2-2B combo, right? Now let's say they do tech. Any direction.
Middle.
Mid parry AK is going to catch them.
Take this.
So you got a pretty good tech trap there. Not that you're really going to use it all that often because people don't really get hit by high parry K, but there you go.
Low.
Now when you talk about low parry is the true mix-up B kind of thing. Low parry B does give you a full combo. It is going to be the most damage that you're going to get off of a low parry, a successful low parry, but not really all that much damage, right? And it is a seeable vertical, so in my opinion, it's the least useful of the moves. For low parry, what you want to look for is low parry kick and low parry A. Low parry kick is an unseeable low that is vertical, that can step this, but it is a knockdown, right? And it goes pretty far. You also have low parry A, which you saw before, which is a huge sweeping horizontal that I believe puts you at like -10 or -8. Pretty sure -8. So that's kind of like the mix-up. I have heard tell of people who can just automatically step and then block low parry A on reaction, but haven't really come across that all that often. So those are the kinds of things that you get in parries. And really the idea is to stance mix up your opponent to the point where they feel overwhelmed, right? Now let's talk about AMS, which is your 2-3-6 / holding forward in some of your stances. So the stuff that you get here are normally combo enders, like that, or AMS A plus B, stuff like that. When I'm using AMS in neutral, I'm basically going for either AMS grab, which is a command grab, so you're at +8 after this, and it also leaves them standing, and even if they break it, you're at +8. You're at +8 on a grab break, which means that your 6BB is literally I2. This is pretty important. Not to mention, AMS grabs, the command grab, recover quicker than regular grabs, which means that they are going to be reversal edge safe. So let's say you do something like this, where like 6BB into AMS on block. Yeah, they can't do anything about it, right? So you either want to go for like a grab, or you want to use AMSB. So the AMSB has a gigantic hitbox that can potentially suck opponents in, will retract the opponent. It's actually her most reliable horizontal when it comes to AMS stuff. So what you can do is you can do AMSB-B, which is -14, but it is a 100% jailable string, meaning they can't soul charge, they can't really do anything about the second hit, they just have to block it. Or you can hold down the button and it automatically goes into mid parry, right? And then you can pressure even more so moving forward. Now the reason why I bring up AMS is because not only can you switch between the parries with lightning speed, but any parry you can cancel into AMS as well. And AMS can be canceled into any parry. So you can set up a lot of great pressure like this, right? Now the other thing that I should mention is that if the opponent tries to like sidestep after 6BB6 or something like that, what you can start doing is AMS-A, which is -12, so it is a little bit unsafe, but at the same time, it is going to catch people trying to move around. Once again, putting yourself in good Oki positions, right? So that's the kind of stuff that you're talking about when it comes to AMS. Now let's talk about her soul charge.
It's time to end this.
When her soul charge is up and you have no roses, really what soul charge does is allow you more opportunities to get red roses. So some of the new things that you're going to get are going to include like 6 BBB will now throw out a rose,
It's over.
like that. You can do,
Take this.
whoop,
Here.
whoop.
Unfortunately,
AMS KAB.
end this. Enjoy.
We'll throw out an additional rose. And then the other thing you get is that mid-parry A plus B becomes a break attack that puts you at +4. So let me talk about Soul Charge A plus B for a minute. So in order to have a tech trap or something like this, you're going to need Red Rose. And that's when your Soul Charge becomes significantly better. Once again, just like everything else with Amy, when you have no roses, you're going to have a tough time doing virtually anything. Her Soul Charge was never really one of the most impressive things about her. So when they do not tech and you have Red Roses, best to make it so that he is not guarding. And you hit with the AMS,
End this. Middle.
with the mid-parry A plus B, you get a 4BB, right?
Middle.
Pseudo combo. Tech trap, really. So if they end up teching, what you can get instead... Oh, of course my Soul Charge timed out.
It's time to end this. Middle. Middle.
Oh, why did it go over there?
Unfortunately, it's time to end this. Middle.
You get potentially like a 4A to kind of catch people off guard. Now, if you have Red Roses, when you do 4AA, when you have Soul Charge, you're going to get a counter hit combo. It can potentially ring out, but that is a counter hit combo, and it is unsafe on block. Other things that you're going to get, when you have White Roses and you do Soul Charge, you get what Salmon calls Nobody Blocks Us, which is 214B, Coup de Grace. Your command grabs are going to be a little bit stronger, and are going to count for an additional Red Rose as well. So you get a little bit of stuff. To be honest, her Soul Charge was never really that powerful, and the fact that you have such a big pushback on these isn't really all that good, because obviously as an Amy player, you want to be right in front of your opponent's face, right? The other main move that you get is AMS-A becomes a break attack on the second hit, which means it can still be parried by things like Geralt's parry or Siegfried's base hold or something like that, right? Now, one of the main things that's really cool about Amy now is that she has a Soul Charge attack, which can be very, very powerful. It allows you to go into Soul Charge pressure without that nasty little pushback. One of the main combos that's been going around a lot lately has been 3B Soul Charge attack 4BB when you have Red Roses, right?
Watch and learn.
86 damage, and puts me right in position to when he gets up to do an AMS-A, right? The other thing to note is that she does get an additional lethal hit when she's in Soul Charge
Unfortunately, it's time to end this.
off of low parry K. That is a lethal hit if I am in Soul Charge and they are not. Guaranteed Red Rose, or you could do like a 4B for like a tech trap kind of thing. That's the kind of Soul Charge stuff that you get. I think the Soul Charge attack as time goes on is going to be very, very important. You're going to get all kinds of stuff like 1B into Soul Charge attack, or mid-parry AK into Soul Charge attack. A lot of follow-ups that are not necessarily going to do a lot of damage, but are going to allow you to go into Soul Charge and use your meter effectively and aggressively, which is something that I think is a huge boon for Amy. So when it comes to her like wall combos and her ring out, they're really not the best. Your wall combo is a little bit complicated, but it doesn't really do a whole lot of damage. That's kind of the idea behind them. 6-6B plus K6 into AMS-B hold BK. Back turn B plus K. 6-6B into low parry kick. Into back turn B plus K. Into whichever rows that you want off of any AMS. I'll say that again. 6-6B plus K6, AMS, B hold BK, back turn B plus K, 6-6B into cancel into low parry, kick into back turn B plus K, into AMS A plus B, AMS KB, whatever you like. You can also do AMS BB if you care to. But yeah, you're not really going to get a whole lot of combo damage off of the wall with Amy. They made it so that all of her combo links are going to severely weaken the amount of damage that she's going to get. A new thing that she's going to get is 6A hold, which is going to get you a very similar combo, right? Now when it comes to ring outs, the majority of them come off of 2-2B. That will ring out to one side, and 6AA will ring out to the other side. So her ring outs really aren't that great. Raphael's basically the only character that has weaker ring outs than Amy does. So, you know, that kind of stuff really is kind of her weak spot. One of her other weak spots is her While Rising punishes. You can get While Rising BB, but that is a high, so if the opponent is recovering tech crouched, you can't get that as a punish. You can get While Rising KA, which is a mid into a high, so if they block the While Rising K, you're kind of screwed. But it is going to be +4 on. So what the idea is that if they block the kick, then the A is a force block, and it is going to put you at +4. So it's all about frame advantage rather than actual damage, right? Now, if you're a real beast, what you want to do when it comes to While Rising punishes is full crouch 3K, which is +14 on hit. You're going to get a guaranteed BA, or you're going to get a white/purple CE. Those are probably her weakest spots. It's the fact that you do not really have the ability to do a heavy amount of damage with While Rising punishes off of ring outs and stuff like that. Ooh, one move that I should mention is 6-6A. So 6-6A is a tech crouching, tech jumping, 3-hit, mid-high mid string that is -12 on block. But the important thing is that I can cancel into any parry. So if you think your opponent's going to try to punish with an I-12 move, then you can choose a particular hit level and try to deal with that punish. So it's punishable/not punishable to any character that isn't Nightmare. So it can be a very useful move. It is one of the best get-in tools that the game can have. Yeah, 6-6A. If you're really good, then you can start whip punishing with 6-6A plus B. Now this is -10, but it does give you a pretty solid amount of damage. It can also create, you know, a lot of force block situations. See, he's gonna have a tough time trying to roll at that point. But yeah, I mean, that is essentially the idea of Amy. That's a lot of the very basic bare bones stuff that you want to get used to when it comes to Amy. The main thing that you want to do if you want to play like me is get roses really quickly. One of the new moves is full crouch A plus B, which gives you a red rose there. And then you want to just overwhelm your opponent with just a lot of different neutral type moves. Once you have your opponent clamped up, that's when you start doing the parry dance kind of stuff. And you just want to get used to situations where your opponent has really no recourse to safely press a button to get you off of them. Same with movement. Now the last thing that I want to talk about is block punishment, because depending on how minus your opponent is, you're going to get a different level of block punishment, right? If they're at -10, 6BB or 6BB6. If they're at -12, AK puts you at frame advantage plus their side turned, so they don't really have the option to really contest with you in terms of a button. If they are at -14, you got BA, which again puts them slightly off axis and puts you at frame advantage. If you have white roses, then your punch for -14 is 214A. If it's -16, 6XBB will give you a red rose. It's really not that great. But if you already have red roses, 6XBA into 4BB is fantastic. If you have purple, then 6XBA, 214B, 4BB, best I-16 punish in the game. 80 full damage, wow. When they are at -18, that's when you can start using 46B, which is a lethal hit when it punishes something that is -18. But other than that, honestly, the damage off of 46B on the lethal hit is really not going to be all that great. It's going to be about 30 to 40 damage. Meanwhile, if you just do 6XBA, 4BB when you already have red roses, your I-16 punish is about the same as your I-18 punish, because the I-16 punish does so much more damage. Her lethal hit system really isn't something that I think is really all that important. If it ends up being important later on, maybe I'll do a video about that as well. But once you have this kind of stuff down, you feel comfortable with 3A, with 2-2B, and most importantly, just getting roses really quickly and thinking fast all the time, then you can start incorporating the parry dances and the AMS pressure. But unfortunately, this ended up being a little bit longer than I thought it was going to be. But I hope people don't feel intimidated about playing a character like this. And I actually think that playing a character like Amy is going to make a lot of people a lot better at the game. I think she rewards strong fundamentals, knowing proper block punishment, and thinking on your feet. It helps out with pressure, it helps out with being defensive, it helps out with all kinds of stuff. You'll even get a bigger beard if you end up using Amy a lot more often. So, let me know what you guys think. I hope that you guys like it, and if it ends up working out, then I'll probably do another one in not too much time. But that's what we're going to have for today, and I'll talk to you guys later. Alright, thanks very much.